week 4 video lesson, She Fears the Lord, from our Exceptional Woman online Bible study. I'm so glad that you're tuning in to your last video lesson. It's our final week together in our Exceptional Woman online Bible study. So far together about the exceptional woman, we've learned that she's the exception. She's not perfect, but she is the exception. That she always has noble character. She resolves in her heart to do what's right, no matter what the cost. We've learned about an exceptional woman that she's diligent in her work. She doesn't get caught up in the vicious cycle of busyness that lacks fruit, but she produces fruit in her life through hard work. And then finally, last week we learned that an exceptional woman is always wise with her words. She understands that her words have the power to bring life or death, fruit or poison, and that the scripture says we get to choose. And an exceptional woman will always choose life and fruit through her words into the lives of those around her. This week in your homework, you learned and I learned that an exceptional woman fears the Lord. I wonder if that phrase confused you just a little bit when you first saw that, when you first thought of it. It did me, because as I thought, all throughout Scripture, God tells us to fear not. Over and over, verse after verse, God will say to us, fear not. But the one thing that God does ask us to fear is Him. A healthy fear of the Lord. And you and I are going to find out what that looks like. And we're going to compare it to all the other fears we can find ourselves facing. First, I want you to hear the definition of fear according to the Hebrew transliteration. It's the word yara, and it means this: to fear, revere, be afraid, to stand in awe of, to be awed, reverence, honor, respect. It means to cause astonishment and awe, to be held in awe, to inspire reverence or godly fear or awe. Now, considering how many times that definition used the word awe, I thought it was worth our time to look up that definition of that word as well, awe, that word awe, and what it means. And it means this, according to the dictionary: a feeling of amazement and respect mixed with fear that is often coupled with a feeling of personal insignificance or powerlessness. The idea of awe, or the idea of this fear we're talking about, is that it's something that consumes you. It has the potential, the ability to hold you almost paralyzed in such astonishment and awe. It makes you feel very small and insignificant and powerless in a situation. And then it can also just really impress you. That's the idea we're talking about when we talk about that word fear. Now, this is what I've realized as we went into the study and as I began writing that study for that week. I realized that so many times, girls, we are caught in awe. We are in fear over things. But really, not very often is it God. More times than not, the things that we are so paralyzed by, so consumed with, so overwhelmed and impressed by are the situations we're facing in our lives. And so here's what I want to do today. I want to share a few different things that I feel like we are caught in fear over as girls, as women. And you men, don't tune out, because these are going to apply to you as well. And then I want to compare it to what God's calling us to fear, and that's Himself. So let's look at this. Here's the first thing just in my own life, and I'm sure you'll find it to be true in yours at some point in life, that you have feared before, something that has caused you to be paralyzed, to be consumed with, and it's this: a fear of rejection and embarrassment. Now think about that one for a minute. A fear of rejection and embarrassment. How often do you and I take a step back and not step out into all God has for us simply because we fear the rejection of somebody else or being embarrassed? I know that to be true in my own life. That fear of somebody else just not accepting me, of rejecting me, or that fear of I might embarrass myself has held me back on more time probably than I can even count. And I wonder if that's true in your own life. Fear of rejection, embarrassment. Listen to this verse. It's Isaiah 54, verse 4. Don't be afraid. You're not going to be embarrassed. Don't hold back. You're not going to come up short. I have asked God to do a work in my own heart just to set me free from this type of fear, this fear of everybody rejecting me, a constant fear of needing to make everybody else feel okay. Am I doing what you like? Am I okay to you? Do you like me? Do you accept me? Are you okay with what I'm doing? Are you okay with this plan that God has for my life? Do you agree with it? Is it going to make you feel good? Do you see what I'm saying? We can get so wrapped up in that we're constantly trying to accommodate everybody else just so they won't reject us and just so we won't feel embarrassed. I have to tell you, even about this online Bible study, when God dropped it in my heart to do this study, the first fear I faced was rejection and embarrassment. What if everybody thinks it's a silly idea? What if I do a terrible job on camera and embarrass myself? What if nobody tunes in and takes this study and leaves comments and nobody joins in? Does that mean they're not accepting me? Does that mean they don't accept the idea? What if they reject me? Sometimes you and I have to face that fear. This is what I've realized, because we're waiting to the point we don't feel the fear. But I need you to know something today. More than likely, you're going to feel this kind of fear often. You're going to feel a fear of rejection and embarrassment come over you. What God's asking us to do is to fear Him and His plan more than we fear that rejection from somebody else. He doesn't want that fear, although we might feel it, to paralyze us and keep us from going forward. So many of you girls desperately need the acceptance of all those around you, of your social circles, of your friends, of your coworkers, of your family, to make you feel okay so that you keep going forward. And when they don't accept you, you mold and shape yourself into whatever they're looking for from you. God doesn't want you doing that. You have the right to just be who God's made you to be. And if they reject you, they reject you. I've came to that conclusion in my own heart. At the end of this study, if you girls don't like me, or you didn't like the study, or it didn't work for you, I'm okay with that. It does not mean that God didn't call me to it. It doesn't mean that I'm any less valuable or significant to ministering to women's hearts. It just means it wasn't a fit for you, and I won't take it personal. And I really want us to overcome this fear of rejection and embarrassment and be willing to fear God and what He calls us to more than we do what other people say. Here's the next fear that I feel like we need to face and look into, and it's this: a fear of failure. We can become so paralyzed. Again, it goes in line with what I've just been teaching on. We can become so paralyzed that we never step out simply because we're afraid we'll fail. What about, let's just use, for example, diet world and getting healthy and losing weight. Some of you know that you need to. You've heard every video lesson and blog that I wrote on fitness and my book, Fitness by Faith, and you know God is calling you to a healthier lifestyle. You simply are not stepping out into it because you have a fear of failing. You've failed before. You've tried the thing before and you failed. And now that has become a real fear in your life. You feel like it's just easier to sit on your hands and do nothing and not fail. And you'll feel better about that than to step out with the possibility that you might fail. And I want you to hear this verse, because God really will affirm us with this verse. It's Isaiah 41, verse 10 from the Message Bible. It says, "Don't panic. I'm with you. There's no need to fear, for I'm your God. I'll give you strength. I'll help you. I'll hold you steady and keep a firm grip on you." I wonder how many of us are not stepping out simply because we have such a paralyzing fear of failure over our life. Maybe you have failed before. I know I have failed before, but God uses those failures in our life to teach us life lessons. We can't allow past failure to paralyze us from stepping out when God prompts us. Some of you have a vision and a dream in your heart, something that you really want to do. You know you would enjoy. You know you have the gifts and the talents to do, but that fear of failure has a firm grip on you, and you refuse to step out just because you are afraid of failing at it. I just really want that to stir in you today if that's you. Remember what God says. He says, go ahead. You're not going to be embarrassed. If I've called you to it, I'll keep a firm grip on you. I'll hold you steady. I will not let you fall. And you know what? You and I need to fear God and His promptings in our heart and the vision He's giving us more than we fear the failure. The only way we're going to accomplish anything that God has for us, girls, is when we become willing to take some risks. And that means being willing to risk failure in our life on more than one occasion. But this I will tell you, every failure I have had, including even things like Bible studies like this, every failure I have had has taught me something and drove me forward into the plan that God has for me. And I want to encourage you with that.